Hello, everyone. Welcome to week 2 of MC 100. I hope you guys had a great first week back on campus, and I hope that the beginning of the semester kind of smooths out a little bit as we all transition into what fall is going to look like. This video is going to be an overview of Chapter 2. I've broken Chapter 2 into 2 parts, and this video will deal primarily with the history of the internet and digital media, while Part 2 will focus on media convergence. So I kind of feel silly introducing you guys to the internet because I know all of you have used the internet in some form or fashion, given that we are in an online course. However, despite how widely we all use the internet, very few of us actually knew the history of how the internet came to be and how the internet actually works. And so that's really the purpose of Chapter 2, as well as introducing you to the history, is providing you a little bit of foundation of all the wonderful internet skills that you already have. So as you probably know, the internet is a network of telephone and cable lines, wireless connection, and satellite connections. The primary purpose of the internet is to link and carry information worldwide. The internet actually originated in the 1960s, but it didn't become truly interactive until the 1990s. Beginning in 2000, it became more widely used due to a few developments that we'll talk about later, where 50% of adults in the United States were connected at that time. Today, the internet has become an integral part of our daily lives, and 9 in 10 Americans use the internet at least once a day. The birth of the internet actually started with the Department of Defense here in the United States. The Advanced Research Projects Agency, also known as ARPA, tried to create a way to share computer times. You see, in the 1960s, there were actually very few computers because computers didn't look like they do now. When my father was working as a computer engineer in the 1970s at Georgia Tech, one of their primary computers actually took up an entire room because it was so large. And so ARPA really began looking at how researchers and military could communicate on a network system in order to share computer time and make computer time a little more accessible to researchers and military personnel. And so they came up with what was known as ARPANET, or what we now call the net. And it was a wired communication so that you had to have connections between 2 sites in order for them to talk to one another. Interestingly enough, ARPA, despite being a military operation, had no master switch that could turn off the net. And that will become important as we talk about net neutrality and who can control the internet. So the original design actually had no control or master control to be able to turn off the internet. Now, we didn't have email communication until 1971 when this gentleman, a computer engineer named Ray Tomlinson, actually created a software package to send electronic mail messages to any computer that was connected on ARPANET. Ray Tomlinson is also known as the creator of the @ symbol, which was meant to locate a computer user, and that's how email was sent. You had to include the @ symbol and then the location of the user in order for it to get there. And that's how we have email today. So the structure of email has remained primarily the same. Now, it didn't become a marketable medium until the 1970s, and the primary driver of it becoming a marketable medium was the introduction of microprocessors, which are personal computers. And you can see on the left one of those giant computers that I was talking about that my dad used to use back in the 70s. And then you see the first introduction of what a personal PC looks like. Now, I'm sure you can glance at your laptop or even your tablet and kind of laugh at this personal PC, but this was very innovative technology in the 1970s. I remember being one of the first people in our neighborhood to have a personal computer for non-business use back in the 1980s, and how special that was for us. In 1986, the National Science Foundation introduced high-speed network connection, which allowed more people and those with personal PCs to be able to access the internet. And so by the mid-1980s, fiber optic cables were being connected throughout the country, which allowed for easier access to the internet and allowed people to actually sell internet use. But it wasn't until the commercialization of the internet that it truly became popular. Tim Berners-Lee, who was an engineer, actually formed what we now know as the World Wide Web. Instead of just having wired links to computers across actual wired cables, Tim Berners-Lee created a data linking system that would allow computers to link their information together, no matter what type of computer they were using or where it was located on the internet. He did this by creating hypertext markup language, or what's called HTML. And this is the code that creates web pages and links. You can see it in the second picture on the right. Every website that you go to is actually built using HTML coding, because it allows for computers, regardless of whether you're using a Mac or a PC, to speak to one another. And it's really the language of the internet. Now, web browsers were also created, helping to allow individual users to navigate the web a little more easily. The first web browser was actually called Mosaic. You can see it there on the right. This is the first Windows-based browser to load text and graphics in the magazine layout as we know it today. The first commercial browser was Netscape, and I actually remember using Netscape a long time ago. But of course, the most popular was when Microsoft introduced Internet Explorer in 1995, which many of us still use today, although I use Chrome, or some users use Firefox as well. Now, internet service also changed drastically over time. At the beginning, a lot of people were using telephone wires to dial in or to connect to the internet, but AOL actually created the first dial-up access to internet, and that is why they became so popular as a company. I'm going to play this for you. It brings back fond memories of having to connect to the internet for me, but this is what it used to sound like every time you had to connect to the internet. Oops. There we go. It makes me laugh just thinking about it now. If I had to listen to that every time that I access the internet on my phone or on my computer, just how annoying that would be. But at the time, dial-up internet was incredibly helpful and really allowed access to the internet for a lot of users. And so I have very fond memories of that sound, as funny as that may sound. In addition, once dial-up access was introduced, we then came into high-speed broadband service, which is what a lot of users currently use now. And those internet service providers, or ISPs, were those that would sell high-speed service to users so that they could access the internet. Some of the primary ISPs are AT&T, Comcast, Verizon, Spectrum, and Cox Cable. Search engines also became increasingly important in the birth of the internet, because they help organize all of the various pages and sites that are available on the World Wide Web. In 1994, two graduate students, Jerry Yang and David Philo, created the first search engine, which they called Jerry and David's Guide to the World Wide Web. We know it today as Yahoo, but this was really innovative at the time. It allowed users to enter keywords or search queries, and a mathematical algorithm would bring back the correct web page that you were looking for. Of course, Google kind of took over the search engine game when they introduced google.com in 1998, and that still remains the primary way that people search, although Bing and some other search engines are available. In 2016, the last time that this has been counted by Google, Google found 130 trillion web pages on the internet, which just tells you how prolific and large the internet truly is. Without search engines, it would be very difficult for us to be able to access and find things on the internet, given how many pages there truly are. Now, today we have over 4.5 billion users on the internet. That's 59% of the global population. China, India, and the United States are the top 3 countries in internet users, while North Korea ranks last worldwide. North Korea, due to political reasons, has virtually no internet access among its general population. In terms of social media, which obviously is an outflow of the internet, there are 1.5 billion social network users worldwide. 64% of internet users access social media online, and it's the most popular way that online users spend their time. Just in America alone, there are over 160 million social media users. So now that you understand a little bit about the history of the internet, I want you to watch a really cool video from Socialnomics. This data is from 2019. They have not made the 2020 version yet, but it will show you just how prolific social media is to our everyday use. After watching that video, go into our discussion post about hashtag activism and follow the instructions there. Of course, hashtag activism can bring up some controversial subjects and political viewpoints. So as always, remain professional and respectful within your post as well as your replies. But I look forward to having a great conversation about an important aspect of social media and the internet. So hope you enjoy it. Thank you.